This episode of The Buildout is brought to you by Farmers Gin. Whether you are building a bar, you currently are operating a bar, or you just run a bar at home, you need to have a martini on your menu, and that martini deserves Farmers Gin. Farmers Gin is created by the same amazing people that created Michter's Bourbon. Every single bar deserves a great gin, and Farmers Gin is perfect for creating all of the classic gin cocktails. Farmers Gin is made in Idaho at the first organic distillery in the United States. It's made using regenerative, organic, certified grain that's grown on a family farm. The regenerative approach they use supports soil health, biodiversity, and also just creates a really delicious gin. You can learn more by following Farmers Gin on their socials, at Farmers Gin, or heading to farmersgin.com to learn more. One of the first bars I ever remember going to that changed the way I thought about cocktails was Clover Club. And it is also a bar that's special to me because one of my closest friends got married there. I think there have been a lot of weddings at Clover Club, though. This is The Buildout, and I'm your host, Adam Teeter. And today we are talking about Clover Club, and I'm joined by Christine Williams, Susan Fedroff, and Julie Reiner. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So I think it's a bar that's become extremely well known throughout the world at this point in time. I was working in Brooklyn when you opened it and kept thinking like, I'm working at the Brooklyn Philharmonic. I think Trader Joe's had just opened it. Like it was not the where Clover Club is not the neighborhood that it was then.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, wow, finally an awesome cocktail bar is actually coming to Brooklyn. So we're going to get to why you chose to open it there. But I would love to start by three of you talking to me about how you got to know each other, how this partnership came together, and how you got into the industry in the first place. So Julie, let's start with you.
Sure. Well, way back when. I started out in hospitality in Hawaii where I grew up.
Okay.
And I left there and went to college and just naturally, I started cocktail waitressing in high school in Hawaii and then had my first bartending job in college at Florida State University.
Okay.
And just really got the bug of like, oh, there's money to be made in here. This is great. And just loved it. And then got my degree, moved to San Francisco, tried to get a real job, because at that time it was very much bartending and was not a real job. And I hated that. So I was like, I don't care what my parents think. I'm going to bartend and cocktail waitress anyway. And so I kind of went back into that in San Francisco. And that was where I met Susan, who was also working in restaurants and bars in San Fran. And like good lesbians, we met and moved in together and moved to New York within less than a year. And then I started bartending here in New York City and really kind of was taking a more culinary approach to cocktails in a way that I think people in New York weren't doing at the time.
Yeah.
It was sort of like using fresh juice or tea was like mind-blowing to people.
Had that come because of the experience you'd had in San Francisco? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In San Francisco, it was very much farm-to-table restaurants and like there was fresh fruit in bars and, there weren't really menus, so to speak, at many of the bars other than having like the Buena Vista. You'd go there obviously for their Irish coffee.
Yeah.
Menus were still not common, but fresh juice in drinks was. So I was learning how to make cocktails there with fresh lemon and lime. And then when I got to New York, it was like everything was sour mix on the gun. There, you couldn't get a fresh ingredient in a cocktail to save your life here, It's
so interesting to hear you say that only because I feel like the way that that it's been chosen to look back at like the revitalization of cocktails is that like no one was using fresh juice and New York changed it all. And like, it's actually not true.
It's not true. It's just that, and the thing is that when you do something in New York City, it's global.
Right.
So yeah, I was taking what I had been learning in San Francisco, and also women were all over the place behind the bar in San Francisco.
Yeah.
There were more female bartenders than male, that when we were there, maybe it was the places we were going to. But anyway, there were a lot of women.
All the restaurants and everything too.
Yeah, there were a lot of women behind the bar there. And then coming to New York, it was like nothing was fresh and there were very few women behind the bar.
Then why'd you want to come here, both of you?
Well, this was Smarty Pants got into
was my fault.
NYU for grad school.
Okay.
And it was one of those, like, she was like, I'm not going if you're not coming with me. And I was like, you got to
I didn't
NYU.
say it like that. My voice was deeper.
You baited me to come with you. And
Facts.
I had always wanted to be in New York, and I was in my 20s. I was like, if not now, then when?
Right. And then you just stayed. And so, Susan, what were you doing in San Francisco prior? So you were in the food and beverage space. Were you also bartending, or were you?
I was at the time. So I bartended, not bartended, but I worked in hospitality through high school.
Okay.
And then all through undergrad, got into bartending, and then moved out to San Francisco on a total whim. Didn't know anybody, just felt like I needed to live 3,000 miles away from where I grew up. And landed in hospitality again. But my plan was to go to grad school or maybe law school. And I landed with a great hospitality company, Joie de Vivre. And he had like 15 boutique hotels at the time and 5 clubs, restaurants. And I completely talked my way into a job because I was cocky, fresh out of college, and pitched the CEO of this company to let me write the business plan for a nightclub that he was opening in the Tenderloin at the Phoenix Hotel. And I was like, if you like it, use it, and then give me a job. And if you don't, then, it's a couple of days that you've lost and you don't have to talk to me ever again.
Okay.
And that's how I got the job working at Backflip at the Phoenix Hotel. So I landed in a great hospitality company, learned a ton, and was there for 2 years, and then decided that I wanted to go to grad school. And like Julie had said, I got into my first choice right after we had met. And my plan was to go for government, public policy, and economics, which is what I studied. We moved to New York, and so I was pulling out of hospitality and being like, I'm going to work in government and change the world. And then I started working in that field and hated it. It was miserable and really soul-sucking, and
Could not change.
could not change the world. And then on top of it, we were in our late 20s or early 30s, and we were working complete opposite schedules in an insane city. And I was like, why am I fighting so hard to leave this industry that I love? It's under my skin and I adore it. And so we sort of had a huge lifestyle shift, and I left my government job, and we started by opening Flatiron together, so that was my foray back into hospitality.
Okay, cool. And Christine, what about you? How did you get in the industry?
Well, I didn't start in high school like these two did, somehow. Lax labor laws in their home cities. I started the day I turned 21. I went to the bar that I used to go at with my fake ID for 2 years and gave the owner my ID, and I want to work here. And he was like, your name's not Violet. But he gave me a job, and I started cocktail waitressing through, the last 2 years of college. I also kind of planned to go to law school, took like LSAT classes and all that. And then I had something kind of come up with a friend, and she needed help in Vail, Colorado. She kind of had a retail shop thrust upon her. So I did that for a year and helped her. And I was like, I got to get out of this. This is terrible. But I loved Vail. So I applied at a job at this fine dining place, Sweet Basil. A little shout out to them, where I started as a host, server, AGM, and then was the GM for about 8 years. So I was there about 15 years.
Wow, okay.
And I loved it. It's a great spot. It's turning 50, I think, in a year. Wow. A year, just about a year and a half. So it's an institution, learned a ton about food and wine, especially. Met my husband while I was working there. He was a bartender. And we kind of went down that restaurant hospitality path together, coming to New York, flying to San Francisco, going to restaurants, going to Napa, doing wine tours. And then we started to get the bug about cocktails, especially KJ, my husband. So
who's a bartender at Long Island Bar?
Yes, he is. And I just realized that fine dining wasn't it for me. I wanted to be in hospitality and be in, the business, but in a place that was more fun. And cocktail bars. We started to go to all the really great ones here in New York and San Francisco. Flatiron, Pegu. Phil Ward was our bartender at Pegu.
I'm sorry.
Katie's
So ironic.
Yes,
KJ is now behind the bar with Phil all the time.
That's funny.
Katie Stipe was our bartender at Flatiron, met Julie. And so just kind of took a chance on this. Hey, what kind of jobs are available in New York? Got on, I think it was Craigslist. And the very first one that popped up was the GM at Clover Club.
Wow.
So applied, and that was the rest is history.
Cool. All right,
We had a really fun Skype interview that kept cutting out me and Christine.
Yeah, Skype. It was at the time.
I love it. So we'll catch up to Clover Club, but first, so you moved here, Julie. You guys are here, and what's your first job in the hospitality world in New York?
Well,
First 15 jobs.
yeah.
Cycled like that, huh?
Well, yeah. When we first got here, Sue was we were like, oh, should I continue bartending? What should I do? And I sort of went down some different paths of trying to see if there were other things I should be doing, because I still was getting the pushback from my parents for, having a college degree and being a bartender. So I bartended at a few different places, and then eventually a friend of mine from San Francisco reached out because she was looking for a bar manager at C3 Lounge, which is in the West Village.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, a manager. Now it's legit. So I took the job there. And I was still behind the bar like 5 nights a week, but I was the bar manager.
Yeah, you got the M title. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that was really kind of where it was like this tiny bar. You had to walk through the restaurant to get to the bar in the back. And that was kind of where I started putting out menus and doing my like tiki nights and kind of trying to entertain people with things in a glass, and Dale DeGroff used to go to the theater next door, the Manhattan Theater Source, and some of the actors from there who had been coming into the bar with me, they knew about the Rainbow Room and where he was at the time. And they were like, oh, there's this girl over there. She's making some really good drinks. You should go check it out. And, and this was like, I didn't know who Dale was. I didn't know that anybody else cared about putting a high quality drink in a glass really at the time.
Like 1998, maybe?
Yeah, it was 98. And he walked in and he leaned over because it was like a lower space that you had walked
so you were like
into. I was sort of, and he's standing on the landing and he looks down. He's like, hey, kid, I hear you're making some great drinks in here. And just like this larger than life. And I was like, who are you?
I can just hear that.
Yeah. And he's like my dad, even to this day. And he proceeded to write about my blood orange Cosmo that I was making and my apple infusion in 411 magazine, which was like how you found out where you to go in New York at the time. Yep. I don't know if you remember it, but they were like a little booklet that you'd buy on the side or you'd pick up for free on the side of the street. And the rest from there was sort of like I met this tiny community of people. It was Audrey Saunders and Sasha Petrosky and Eben Clem and Eben Freeman. And there were like 10 of us who were like, I like cocktails. Do you like cocktails? And then Audrey and I started going around to places and harassing people, and trying their whole menus. And that was sort of where it all started. And I started getting written about for the drinks. So that was sort of where all of a sudden, the New York Times, New York Magazine, Food and Wine are writing about what I was doing in that bar. And the bar got like super busy and people were, walking through the restaurant to get to the bar, which made
Were the owners
chef
like, wow, you're the best hire we've ever made?
Well, you would think. I thought that it was my job to fill the bar.
Yeah.
But apparently it was not. I actually got fired for doing too good of a job.
Oh, okay.
Yes. The chef and the restaurant manager went to the owner and they were like, she's going to open her own bar and steal all of your clientele. And she
that was
believed
fun.
it.
It was like super devastating. I just finished grad school. We're in a ton of debt. And she's like, I lost my job. I'm like, okay, we're going to be fine here in New York.
No. So where did you go from there?
From there, I went to, there was a chef by the name of Gavin Citron who had been sitting at my bar writing his menu for his restaurant that he was about to open. It was called Alusha. It was on Park Avenue South and 18th Street. And he asked me to come there. So I ended up going there. I was the bar manager there, which was a great learning experience because it was a much bigger operation. C3 was so little. I could do whatever. Yeah, I was sort of like waiting on tables, bartending. I was doing everything at the same time.
Right.
So this was more learning how to delegate and, larger operation.
It's also Park Avenue South and 18th Street.
Yeah.
So it was like prime. Yeah.
And I have a question for you. It's probably where you first kitchen too, where people were making things for you or collaborating.
Yeah, because Gavin Citron was the first chef that I ever worked with who actually loved the bar and supported the bar.
Okay.
So the chef, at the previous spot was intimidated, was like, I'm the star. The chef is the star.
Yeah.
The bartender can't be the star. And I was taking away, in his eyes, from his superstardom by doing high quality things, whereas Gavin was like, oh, this is a whole nother opportunity for us to, really push the idea of the place out. And he became a part of making syrups and doing a lot of the different things in the bar. And I learned from his pastry chef there. And so that was a really good experience.
How long were you there for?
I was there until September 11th.
Okay.
Yes, when everything stopped below 23rd Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was sort of the catalyst for the change for me back into the hospitality industry because I was working in government and was on that track. And September 11th happened. We lived downtown, so we had an insane experience, lost our apartment. Julie lost her job. And then we were like, I don't know if I can even live in this city anymore.
Right.
And we sort of ran away, went to Hawaii, where Julie is from, and stayed there for a few months and just kind of healed and regrouped and kind of was like, what do we want to do? And it was a friend of ours from San Francisco who was originally from New York who had called us, and she's like, I don't know where you guys are at, what you're doing, but I'm standing in this space on 19th Street, and I think it might be something worth coming back to New York for. And she had seen Flatiron, and we were like, we had eaten all the poke we could, and we were as tan as we were going to get. And I'm like, well, maybe we should go back to New York.
Wow, okay.
It was, and this was something that we had talked to. I had been talking to her before September 11th even happened, while I was still at C3 before I was fired, about opening a place, because we realized very quickly that, all of a sudden, all of these articles came out and the whole bar is packed with people.
Right.
And that we were like, okay, New Yorkers want the best of everything. They will travel for it. If they read about the best apple martini in New York City, they will come from the Upper East Side
Yes, they will.
to the Village to get it. And so I was like, this is an untapped market in a city where everything's been done. We have to open a place. And so we were already in that process, as September 11th approached and then passed. And we were very scarred by our experience and almost left. And, but we were sort of like, you know what, if we don't go back, then they win. And we want to live. We moved to New York City for a reason, and we're not done there. So we came back and we opened Flatiron Lounge in 2003.
So did you open that with this partner?
Yep. It was a family. There were a family of 3 people plus our friend Michelle, who we had met in San Francisco, actually. When we were living there.
Had they had experience? Had they owned other restaurants and bars before?
Yes.
And just like, okay.
Yeah. So 2 of them owned the Zinc Bar, which is still open in the Village, like a jazz bar. And one was in like construction and like heating and air conditioning and stuff. So everybody with the Flatiron Project kind of brought something to the table.
It was a really good first experience regarding a partnership because it really taught us that like trying to open something with a group of people who have the exact same skill set that you have is useless. And this was a very diverse group of people, design, engineering, understanding, navigating city agencies, legal background. And I had a finance background. And then Julie was sort of like everything front of the house, along with Michelle. So that aspect of the partnership was phenomenal.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I feel like you hear that in almost every business, right? That the founding teams, partners can be really great or really hard. And often, at least in our industry, I find it's often 2 bartenders, 3 bartenders that want to open together, and they may all have the same skills. And
that is usually what it is.
yeah, and that's it's very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's nice to have somebody it's nice to have some overlap so that everybody kind of understands each other. But yeah, you don't want to just open a bar with somebody who knows the exact same things that you do.
Yeah, we learned a great deal from that partnership, just understanding, and they were all New Yorkers. They were born and raised here, and they just understood a great deal about navigating opening a business in the city. So I was extremely grateful for that, and I tried to soak up everything. I learned as much about maintenance, HVACs, city agencies, reading leases. Like I just took it all in. Plumbing, yeah, all the glamorous things. And they were great for that. But like we sort of found as the business went on, we had really different styles regarding management and the way that we wanted to own and operate our business. And it sort of shifted away from that. You know, we opened Pegu together and just sort of, and that's when we brought Audrey in. We switched out Michelle, we brought in Audrey, and we're like, this is going to be great. This is going to be the dream team. And it was like a phenomenal project in a lot of ways, but it was a really expensive program to run. And so it wasn't the most lucrative business, you know, compared to what we had experienced at Flatiron. And I just think that after many years with this partnership, and it was also a very large partnership, that we sort of got to a place where we're just like, it's really hard when like 6 to 8 people are trying to get together and make a decision on anything. And then, you know, we just sort of started thinking about doing something on a scale that was, you know, maybe a smaller partnership that was more of us being the ownership team.
So that all is happening as you've opened Flatiron Pegu, and you're sort of like, we got to do our own thing. Basically, it's time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and we moved to Brooklyn.
Okay.
So yeah, after we had been living in Manhattan, we came back from Hawaii and ended up moving we had an apartment on 14th Street and 8th Ave. So we were living in between
both
Flatiron and Pegu.
Yeah.
We were like the first call for anything that goes wrong. And I was just like, you know, I would really love a little bit more quiet in my life and not live on 14th Street, which was like the meatpacking district was happening at that time.
Yeah.
It was loud. And so we moved to Park Slope, you know, and I was like, why aren't there any good cocktail bars out here? Yeah,
Zero.
It was like there was nowhere to go. And so, you know, Dave Wondrich, Dr. Dave, who everybody I'm sure knows, author and historian. I started talking to him and I was like, if you were going to open a place, because I know he's like born and raised in Brooklyn, and, you know, like he's been here. I don't know if he's born here, but he's lived here forever. And I was just like, if you're going to open a place in Brooklyn, do you think like Park Slope, like Fifth Avenue or Smith Street? Like, you know, because I was sort of looking around trying to find somewhere to go. And he was like, oh, definitely Smith Street, which later, you know, after we had opened Clover, he was like, he goes, I do believe that was true, but I also wanted it to be closer to my house.
That's so good.
He was like one of our greatest regulars for the longest time there.
So
yeah,
you've been told by Dave Wondrich to open on Smith Street.
Yeah.
So you start looking for a place. What did you know what you wanted? Like, you've obviously opened 2 iconic bars already.
Yeah.
Like, what had you learned from them that taught you what you wanted and what you didn't?
Well, so there was a friend who we knew who was in real estate.
Okay.
And I just mentioned to him, I was like, you know, there's nothing in Brooklyn. You know, if you see any retail, I was like, if you see any spaces that you think might be good for a cocktail bar, let me know, you know, because there's nothing out here. And so he called me up a week later and was like, hey, I found this space on Smith Street. He's like, and I want in, you know? And so like, yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So the broker forces his way into partner.
Exactly. The broker who. Yeah.
We were super excited because he was also a creative, but he had the capacity to finance the entire project. And you know, the deal was like a 3-bar deal, and he was like, we'll do this one, and then once we like pay back, we'll break ground on another one. And, you know, and this all sounded amazing to us. And sort of the issues that we had with our original partnership with Flatiron and Pegu had, you know, definitely had been addressed with this new partner, and we're just like, he's everything that we were looking for at the time. And so it seemed like a dream, and that whole thing was another incredible like educational experience opening Clover Club.
Had you known him for a while before?
So one of my first jobs when I first moved to New York, there was a career bartender by the name of Howie from San Francisco who was like, you should go talk to my friend. He's at this place. And so he hired me at this restaurant in like Times Square. It was one of the first jobs that I had when I first got here. And that was where I met him. So I had gone on to do, and then we opened Flatiron, and then he lived in the Union Square area, and he would come into Flatiron all the time. And that was where I saw him when I said, I'm thinking about opening something in Brooklyn because there's nothing there, but I had worked with him at that restaurant.
When you opened Clover, did you leave the partnership at Flatiron, or you stayed? So you stayed.
We were still partners, but we were no longer we were day-to-day operations over there.
Right,
so we basically said, we're not operating the bar anymore.
Okay.
I was checking in quite often.
Yeah.
We hired KJ at Flatiron, which was great because I still had, eyes and ears in there.
Yeah.
And, you guys weren't here yet at that point, but I still had connection there for a good amount of time and would spend some time back and forth, but Clover definitely became my focus and Sue's focus.
Yeah, I'd say that like for the first, 9 years of Flatiron, we were involved pretty much all the time, every day. And then, we brought in a GM and support managers, and then we would go in for like, weekly meetings and monthly meetings. But it just sort of seemed like the more time we spent in Brooklyn, and then once we broke ground on Clover and we started doing that partnership really got strained with the Manhattan spaces.
Yeah, I was curious. Like, did you find they were supportive that they knew you wanted to do this, or they were like, "Oh, they're going to Brooklyn. Who cares?" Like, no,
not supportive.
Yeah.
No comment.
Okay.
No, and there, like I said, there was a great deal that we learned from them, but we also, it's like with anything you do in your life, that you take lessons from it on what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And we had moved on from that, and we were doing things a different way. And so we were sort of like into this new partnership, and, the Buildout had a bunch of challenges that were really fascinating for me. And I learned a great deal more about navigating city agencies and legal process, and it all was going very well. And, we opened in 2008, and it was right before the big crash, so huge economic crash. What we were expecting to do regarding our projections financially, we weren't hitting. And we're just like, okay, we've got to give this business time. Like, I know it was a big build out, but, and our partner over at Clover was just like, throwing ideas at it that were just not within what our brand was. It was just like, okay, well, if we're not hitting our numbers, we're going to do a movie night. We're going to do a supper club. I mean, just like all of these things that were not us, that felt really forced and ridiculous just to bring in money. And I'm just like, it's a clown show. Like, this is not, stick to what you do, and you have to give people time. They'll figure it out.
And at the same time, we were, we might not have been hitting those projected numbers, which were kind of based on what we did at Flatiron, because we didn't know what to expect in Brooklyn. It was our first foray into a business in Brooklyn, but we were still the busiest thing around. So it was busy,
and we weren't far off. We were getting there. But
it was one of.
He didn't have a lot of patience.
No.
I mean, had you ever owned restaurants or bars before?
No.
Yeah.
No. And the other thing too is, so like we are, maybe 6 months into Clover being open, we're not, hitting or exceeding our numbers, which was his expectation. And so his idea was, let's open a second place immediately, and let's open a second place in Manhattan. And so before we can walk, we were already trying to run.
Right.
And so, we started looking at spaces again. That partnership was now getting a little bit strained because we're just like, we opened 3 weeks later, we're doing brunch, and now you want to do lunch, and now you want to do movie night and supper club and all of these things that are outside of our brand.
Right.
And now we're looking at other spaces, and we're breaking ground on another space, at which point we were like, we need a general manager at Clover who can come in and run things while we're like maniacs running around Manhattan trying to, open this other spot. And that was sort of like the process where we started interviewing, talked to Christine, and it was like immediately we're just like, this is the perfect person. And then sadly, we brought her in and threw her to the wolves. Legitimately. Like, I think she walked in the door. We were like, hey, tossed her keys. There was no training process.
I did not get a key. I had to ask Nick Jarrett to copy his key.
Fair enough.
Before we get into Christine, you starting, I want to go back a little bit. The story's obviously been told before, but how'd you come up with a name? And also, I think at this point, you're like one of the businesses that really defines Smith Street, right? I mean, the sign is super iconic.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? How did you think about all those things?
Yeah. Well, I knew that I wanted to name the place after a classic cocktail. You know, I came from a very classically focused kind of background. I was really tired from I did new menus at Flatiron Lounge every 4 months and never repeated anything, which looking back now, I'm like, damn it. Because all of my friends and peers just put the same drinks on every menu everywhere they went. And then they became modern classics. I was like.
So you were the only one doing the menus. Like, they were all your drinks.
I'm like.
Yeah.
Gin mule. Why didn't I leave those drinks on over and over again and just shove them down people's throats? You know, you want a penicillin.
Yes.
But I did not do that. It was seasonal menus and all, you know, and so I when I started working on Clover, I was like, maybe we don't need to change the menu all the time. We have like this core classics, and then we can kind of rotate some drinks in and out, you know. And so I started making my list of names, and, you know, it's one of those things where you throw it out to the group. We look at how things look in writing. How does it look in cursive? We were working with a friend of our partners who was helping with design. So that was helpful. And, you know, the alliteration with Clover Club, it's an incredibly delicious drink.
Yep.
It's one of those, you know, gin cocktail that 99.9% of people who try it love. So if it's going to be your house drink, it better be delicious. So that was how we landed on that. And then, you know, with Flatiron, we had bought this antique bar. I met this guy at the bar show. He had a sign that said oldwoodbars.com. I was like, it was really simple. I was like, okay. And that was where we found the Art Deco bar that was at Flatiron. And there was something really magical about buying this large piece of history and then designing the space around it, because it just felt organic because it was already old,
right?
You know? And so I went back to oldwoodbars.com and I found this incredible bar that was up in Sugar Notch, Pennsylvania. And so, you know, Sue and I hopped in a convertible one summer and like drove up there to see it. And it was like in this old coal mining town, and it was perfect. And so we bought this bar, and it fit perfectly in the space that we wanted to put it in. It's just this incredible 1897 Gothic sort of bar.
We go in there, and it's like a 3-story building, and the bar is on the ground floor. And I guess the other 2 floors were like, this is an old coal mining town. So one was like a dance hall floor, and one was like where all the miners would sleep, you know? And so everything was all within the same building. And we had brought cash with us, and I can't remember what the total cost of it, but I think we had a down payment of like $10,000 cash on us at the time in an envelope. And I go in and I'm like, I've never had this much money on me before in my life. And we go in and we look at the bar, and we're on the phone with like our business partner at the time. And he's like, well, how does the bar look? And I'm like, it looks great. He's like, does it look like it was built in 1897? I was like, maybe, but what if I'm wrong and it was built in like 1975 and I give these guys cash? And like, I was like, and he's like, just trust your instinct. I was like, it's beautiful. It's stunning. And yeah, so we gave them the deposit and we drove away from there. And then there was a moving company that disassembled the bar into like, I think something like 20 pieces, back bar, front bar, everything, all original, and then transported it to Brooklyn for us.
That's super cool.
And when that bar showed up and we put everything into place, the design fell off of that bar. Like everything that we did in Clover Club after that, back, front room, everything was all based on the look of that bar.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we wanted it to feel like it had been there forever. You know,
It does.
That was, and to be comfortable. But it's like, you know, a lot of the time when you design bars, I mean, you always hope for certain things, and sometimes you open and you're like, I don't like it as much as I thought I was going to. I mean, I've had that experience. But this was one that was just kind of magical from the beginning, and it just, you know, we knew week one that it was special.
Yeah.
So you open, already being pushed open another spot. So that's when, Christine, you join. What did you know what to expect when you joined?
No, definitely not. I was very bored the first couple weeks because I came from fine dining.
Right.
So I was like, oh, here's your roll up. Okay. I was like, I've got that down. But so it really kind of, and they were not, Julie and Sue and the other partner were, I mean, I barely saw them my first 6 months.
Yeah.
So it really just, and they were very open, you have all the information you need, look up anything. So I really just dove into the menus and learning all of the classics and, really working with the head bartender about the culture of cocktails and cocktail bars. That was Brad
Farron.
Yeah, Brad Farron. And so he, really kind of took me under his wing as far as, cocktail bars and culture. And I kind of brought what I knew about dining and, hospitality and service. And we kind of just really collaborated together and worked on that.
That was really one of the greatest things with Christine is that Sue and I really had no experience running kitchens. And because Flatiron had no food, I had never run a kitchen. So when we talked to Christine and we interviewed Christine, we're like, oh, thank God. Because I don't know how to manage a kitchen, so bringing her in with that and then having experience with fine dining, it just brought a whole nother set of skills to Clover Club that neither of us had.
Did you know you wanted to do food? Was it because there was already a kitchen? Like, how did that happen?
Well, the plan originally when we opened, we actually brought in Gavin Citron to be a consulting sort of opening chef for us. And the idea was that we were going to have a menu of like 8 to 10 small plates, kind of like what we did at Pegu, because Pegu we had food. And so we opened with that.
We were running it like a commissary kitchen. So he was at that point doing predominantly catering. So we had pars for each dish on our menu. And then he would come in and supply ingredients like twice a week. And we had 2 guys in our kitchen. So it basically meant that we weren't running our kitchen, but the cost to do food was probably 95% of what we were making on food. So it was like not worth it to continue doing it. We're like, we're not food people, so we can't really run the kitchen. Let's stick to what we know. And it was, about 3 weeks after we officially opened Clover that we started interviewing chefs like to be in-house. Where we realized very quickly that people in Brooklyn, they wanted to sit and they wanted food and they wanted more than 8 tiny items. There's a very different culture out there than it was in Manhattan. In Manhattan at Flatiron, if people weren't like shoved in the tunnel spilling their martini on themselves, they weren't having a good time. It was like this is boring. Yeah.
And
originally
and
we had
too.
We had we didn't anticipate reservations, like people calling for reservations. We expected to be 4 deep at the bar, like we were at Flatiron. We had drink rails all along the wall when you first walk into Clover, expecting that there would be large groups, standing room, kind of a thing. And once we saw what people were expecting from us, we pivoted. And so we took out the drink rail, we put in more tables, we started taking reservations, and then we were just like, all right, brunch. Brunch makes sense. People want brunch.
Wow.
That sort of evolved into that.
Yeah, just very much like just listening to the neighborhood, and give the people what they want. It's like you can open and have an idea of what you want to be, but at the end of the day, your clientele decides
Right. It's almost like, we want that when we go into Manhattan, but when we're in Brooklyn, we want to feel more relaxed.
Yeah, we want to sit down and have a steak frites,
Yeah, exactly.
And a Manhattan to go with it and sit on a comfy stool.
Exactly.
So we didn't have a ton of experience running kitchens, but like to also backtrack a little bit, I mean, Christine comes in with this insane skill set and it's like, arguably one of the smartest people that we know, and comes in and rounds out our partnership, knows everything that we don't know, which is a lot. And while we're completely absent building out Lani Kai and trying to get that off the ground and doing that, she is, learning everything about the culture of Clover Club and, with the staff, the way that she manages the team and makes everybody feel so heard and welcome and brings out the best in everybody, and then starts implementing these super efficient systems. And Clover Club just started running in a way that we just couldn't run it. It's just not what we knew how to do. And the party booking and just, it wasn't corporate. It was just really efficient and smart, these systems that we hadn't had before in other bars that we had operated. So it was something that we desperately needed, that she had brought to the table and to this partnership.
Wow. And so how many parties do you do? I mean, like I said, I've been to a wedding at Clover Club.
Yeah.
And was that...
And now?
We do.
It's nutty.
Yeah.
It's great. And it's you say you've been to a wedding, and I think that is the greatest thing about parties at Clover Club is since I started, and this is now since 2010, we've never advertised that we do parties.
Wow.
It's always, hey, I went to a wedding here. This seems like it would be a really fun place for my boyfriend's 30th birthday, or it's my husband's 50th birthday, or wedding shower. And it's like this crazy organic growth that happened with parties there.
Yeah. And we also expanded, a year ago, we expanded into the space next door, and we opened the saloon at Clover Club, mostly because Sue and I were watching a lot of Yellowstone.
I streamed like 5 seasons in like 6 weeks, and we're like, we should open a saloon.
We needed office space, and we needed more. We needed like a larger liquor room. We really backed into what that was because we needed more prep space and offices and refrigeration and freezers. And then we were like, what should we do with the storefront? But yeah, I mean, it's been incredible because the way that we designed it has its own entrance. It's got its own bathroom. But it also connects to the parlor at Clover Club. So we can do a party that is in the saloon and the parlor. So you can have, over 100 people between those two spaces, and you have two very different vibes. And then we can do buyouts, for about 200 people in the entire space. So a wedding, we've done these weddings that are so fun because it's like sometimes it's the older people that are in the parlor, and then like the partiers are in the saloon and they have a different playlist going. And then the main room is where they do the ceremony and the vows up front. And it's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. So we're doing a ton of parties. Yeah. Which is great.
When you opened Lani Kai, were you concerned that your attention had been taken away from Clover Club? Like Clover Club's sort of your baby. It's the first child.
Yeah, we weren't really looking to do it. We sort of felt trapped by
you said
our
he was
agreement.
like, you got to do this basically.
Yeah, well, we signed a shitty deal, It was like 3-bar deal, but there was no plan for what happens if we don't want to open a third bar with each other, or what happens to bar number 1 if bar number 2 it fails, or we didn't have
none of that was in the contract.
It was not well stated.
No, and it was basically the contract was null and void if we weren't opening 3 bars, and so we are basically like the partnership at that point had gotten strained. And again, it was sort of like we operate a certain way, and he wanted to operate a different way, which was, sort of treating the business like an ATM machine. And, it's like Christine is trying to manage everything, do all the admin, pay bills. And she's just like, we are profitable enough that I shouldn't have to be like writing checks every day because I have to like stagger things so much because he's constantly, taking funds out. And it was no longer workable, and it got really ugly. And then we sort of felt really defeated because at that point we're like 2 years into Lani Kai. We closed Lani Kai. that partnership was destroyed at that point. And he's like, okay, well, it's time to open bar 3. And we're like, we don't ever want to do anything with you ever again. And then he was like, well, then Clover Club's mine. And we were
wow.
oh my God.
That was also the year that we won all of the awards at Tales.
Right. So you've gotten all this press.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're
All
standing
these
on
accolades.
the 3 of us are on the stage at Tales of the Cocktails Spirited Awards, having won Best American Cocktail Bar, Best High Volume Bar, and I won for Bar Mentor that year.
Yeah.
And we didn't even know if we actually were.
Well, we were definitely not sure what was going on. And it was Christine who sort of approached us in our tiny office, which is, like maybe 4 feet by 4 feet. The 3 of us were like holed up in there. And Christine was like, I think we should buy him out. And we're like,
Wow.
Can we do that?
Yeah, I just really felt strongly about it. I was such an observer of their partnership with no actual involvement in the partnership. And this was a person who was coming in, once every 10 days just to sign checks or just, grab a bottle of wine or booze from the liquor room. And that was it. He would call people by the wrong name. Hey, Trevor.
Yeah.
Good old Trevor.
Oh,
Thanks,
Trevor, you're
Trevor.
the best guy who's ever worked here. It's like, thanks. It's Travis. And I could see what was happening with Lonnie Kai, and it was really a bummer to kind of observe it.
Yeah.
But I knew that the people who were present and really interested in making Clover Club great were Julie and Sue, and not this third person. It had nothing to do with any of the culture of what we were doing. So I just said, I don't understand why we just don't buy him out. We just have to tell him, give it to us, sell it to us, or run it. And I know he can't run it.
Right.
I mean, I just knew in my gut, this guy can't run a bar.
Right. He can threaten you and say it's his, but if you give it to him, then it's going to fail anyways because he doesn't know what he's doing.
And even if he tried to get anyone else to run it,
And he did.
and he did try, but they would know so quickly that they were, dealing with someone who just had his own best interests at heart and never was going to be kind of the part of the team in any way, shape, or form. So I just felt very confident he would have to sell it to us.
So how did you figure out what that was going to take?
Well,
we spoke to our attorney,
Yeah.
who is an old friend, also who we met over the bar. And so he was great because he would sort of hold meetings while he was having lunch, so he didn't charge us like his fee. He's like, well, if I'm having lunch, it's not, clockable hours. But we told him everything that was going on, and he was sort of our touchstone. And like literally, this person who was our partner, he was kind of manipulative and not the nicest person. And he chose to only deal with me because confrontation is not really my thing. And so it was like, it's like super aggressive.
Right. So then he knew that, you were the person he could take advantage of.
Totally. Was
Yeah,
trying
he wanted
to
to control the situation.
So-
So he refused to speak to Christine or myself.
Yeah.
but little did he know. We would hold our meetings in Sue's car where he would be, on speaker with Sue, and I was always there.
I love it.
With a legal pad, like writing down notes of what to say. It was amazing. It was like the start of just like, we just triple teamed him. Like he couldn't, and we didn't do anything like, nefarious, but we just outpaced him. He just tried really hard to undermine us, and he tried to like take the business out from under us. It took 14 months to get to close because he was so angry. Like he couldn't believe that we had figured out a way to do this. And we went to a bank, we got a bank loan, Christine put like her life up for collateral, for us to be able to get this loan. And every week was something different with him. He's like, okay, I'll sell it to you, but I want to maintain creative design control, or I'll sell it to you, but I want to keep 1%, or you can't do this. You can't, like, he just couldn't let it go. And, it just finally, after many months, we actually had someone who had worked with us previously, who he had also gone to and tried to get him to undercut us and be like, threw a bunch of money at him and was like, come in, you can take over Clover Club, it'll be yours, and we'll get these girls out. And it was this person, this bartender, who talked to our former partner and was just like, dude, you're thinking about this wrong. This is never going to be you. It's always going to be the ghost of Julie Reiner walking around in there, and it's going to crush you. And you need to just step away and go move on and do something else with your life. And for whatever reason, he heard those words, and when he wasn't hearing anything from us, and we finally, after 14 months, closed and got him out.
Wow. And when was that? 2000?
That was 2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a really nice celebration at the
Yeah, I'm sure
Nomad.
that was awesome.
Yes.
And how long had the bar been open at that point? 4 years? 5 years? 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
6 years.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. It was crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but we basically bought the bar from him as if we owned none of it.
Yeah. We bought our bar back
Because
from him.
We
Yeah.
were partners in opening it.
Right.
But
he made you pay 100%.
oh yeah, we
yeah.
paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
We
didn't get
paid-
his percentage. You
Yeah, no,
had to buy all
we
of it.
bought
No.
all of it as
Wow.
if we owned none of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It all worked out in the
It all
end.
worked
It
out.
really did.
Yeah.
Like we ended up doing just fine.
Yeah.
Did you throw a party?
We had a little party, like KJ and the three of us, and we went to the Nomad and we had a really nice bottle of champagne.
Okay.
And then we went back to work the next morning, and we were like, we have shit to do.
Right. Now we got
a loan to pay off.
gotta pay this loan off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, because it was a big loan, and we were and we just had a plan to pay it back, and we knew we wanted to pay it back early, and but we managed it all, and
we did.
we
That's
did.
amazing. You paid the full loan back.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
even with the pandemic. Yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah,
That's really
and
incredible.
opened Leanda in the process.
Yeah. So what? I mean, we can touch on that really quickly because I also want to get to my ladies. But what was the reason for opening Leanda?
Well, I mean, so pretty interestingly, the landlord of Clover Club, he's since passed, and lovely gentleman, also could not stand our old partner.
Okay, that's a nice thing when you're a landlord. Yeah.
He was, he could see what this was. An old Brooklyn guy. I mean, he and his wife bought the buildings on Smith Street. I think there were 3.
It was
In
his mom.
Oh, his mom. I'm sorry.
Bought
Yeah.
8 buildings on Smith Street in the 40s.
Wow.
And she was a widow with 6 kids or something.
No,
Or,
she had
like,
three sons.
3 sons.
Her husband had died, passed away like when he was in his late 30s. And so she was stuck with 3 young children and had these buildings that she bought out after she got a little bit of a settlement from, the mob. It was like, I mean, the history is incredible.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah. Carroll Gardens neighborhood.
Carroll Gardens neighborhood. Yeah.
She was in it.
But we literally
Yeah.
had been bought out Clover in March, and it is, I mean, I think we were at the end of August, September.
It was actually in December because it was in the middle of Christmas.
He came down before, he comes down in his red robe. Or no, come up for a meeting.
Right.
Come up to my apartment for a meeting.
He lives above.
He lives
lived above us.
The floor right above.
Yeah, right above us. And we all go in, and he's in a, red velvet bathrobe. And he's like, I want you girls to take the space across the street. I never wanted to tell your other partner about it, but I've
now
been
that he's
trying to
gone.
now he's gone. And we were like, can you please table this until like the new year, 2015? We just opened this, and we went and looked at the space, and it was such a cool space. Same thing. It was just,
I had been eyeing that space for years, not
Really?
actually knowing that they owned it also, because just the facade, the front of that space is so beautiful. And I was like, oh, this could be a cool tiki bar, or I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like the wood and the rounded doors and stuff and the windows that opened. So when he came in, he's like, I want you girls to take my space.
It was great. But that was also like for all the projects that I've been a part of that we've done, like this one, he came to us in December. We signed the lease for February 1st, drafted like financials and a forecast, got the contractor in, we were open with a liquor license by May 20th of that same year.
Whoa.
Yeah. On
Under
budget.
budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah. It was insane. Like the most successful opening, the most efficient, like on point, and just, it was unreal.
Were you scared you were going to cannibalize the customer base?
It was Christine that was like, she's like, everybody loves tacos. and we knew enough living in New York City that you can open a place right next door to each other. It doesn't mean you're going to take away business.
And actually, Grand Army had just opened, I think 2 weeks before Leanda did. And everybody always asked that question. Oh, are you scared of competition, of Grand Army? Long Island Bar was,
In Brooklyn terms, those bars are far from each other. Let's be clear. You know what I mean? That's why I think it's very
they're
different.
not on the same.
They're not.
But it also
But
created
it
created a reason for people to come to Brooklyn. I feel
totally.
like, hey, you weren't just going to come to Clover Club or just go to Long Island Bar, and all of the bartenders know each other at all of those bars, and it's go see KJ at Long Island Bar. Go Phil's on Tuesday night. Leanne's on Wednesday night here.
And we already knew from operating Clover Club too that while it's a neighborhood bar, it also had a global reputation for the program, and so you had cabs pulling up all night from all over Manhattan and people coming in from all over. So this wasn't like people coming in within a 2-block radius. We were a destination bar. And so we knew that the more people you bring to the neighborhood, the better it is.
Yeah, totally.
Never really concerned us. Never really thought that was going to be a problem.
No, it actually, we realized very quickly that it was a great thing because people would come to Clover and then they go across the street or vice versa. It was,
and they were such different business
yeah,
models.
different clienteles. I mean, I think Leanda had a little bit younger, hipper crowd. It was a much different vibe.
Yeah.
Were there ever any times post purchasing Clover that you felt really nervous? I mean, you mentioned COVID and being able to pay off through COVID.
I was like, COVID?
I was really nervous when we thought we weren't going to get our certificate of occupancy. And without that, we can't formally get our liquor license. So we had struggled for the first 6 years with our partner getting everything finalized to get the C of O, which, isn't uncommon. There's lots of logistics with the Department of Buildings and different things, PAs and stuff like that. So we knew it was a process, but there was something that was triggered by the sale, switching corporate names.
Okay.
We had to go it wasn't a transfer, we had to go for a whole new liquor license. And in doing that, it required us having, a formal certificate of occupancy, which we were still working on. And so it put us in the crosshairs of, a few agencies. And that was the only time I was really sweating. I was losing sleep over that because I'm just like, this is, we were talking to local Congress, like council people, like, we're beloved in the neighborhood. You got to help us. Like, it's a lot of red tape. And, we definitely found our way around it. But there were some sleepless nights about that. And that was like the only thing for me until we hit COVID, where I was just like,
right.
Now what?
Yep.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that's like totally out of your hands.
Yeah. That was really, for me, that was the toughest. It's like, if people can't stand next to each other, we are screwed as an industry.
Yeah, totally.
It's
Totally.
like,
That one, I think you definitely struggled with that the most until it was like, hey, we can do to go. And obviously nobody thinks the to go window days are like, the ideal business model. But being able to be back in the space, work a few hours every night, really just turned everybody's kind of like viewpoint around.
yeah.
And then it started making you say, oh, what are some different things that we should be doing? How do we change? COVID was obviously a terrible time, but there were some silver linings for sure. And it was a way to get yourself off your day-to-day, do it the way we've always done it, kind of stance.
And we were all, it was all of us
Yeah,
here,
all of-
and Christine's husband, like waiting tables.
I would say it was the owner's show because we
Yeah.
didn't really know how dangerous it was.
Right.
So
Julie and I were delivering cocktails to Jersey, and like,
Oh, yeah.
we would like load up the car with that when we were doing to-go cocktails and driving all
Yep.
over the Upper West Side, all over Manhattan,
we
everywhere.
made KJ wait tables outside.
Yeah, but it was, it was honestly, that was some of, there were some really good times in there. Like coming home just beat from like going back to your roots of waiting tables, bartending, and then waiting tables.
Yeah.
We did everything but cook.
But cook.
Yeah.
Yeah, we set up a whole thing because our bar is so far back in the space that we had to set up like a makeshift bar towards the front
remember that.
doors.
Yeah.
And so we had a little refrigerator there, and we started batching drinks, and it was Tom Macy and myself, and KJ mostly bartending it, and and then eventually we brought Jelani in, and he became our only employee because he was already out there doing stuff. He was
Yeah.
like, I'm good.
I think it was like super nerve-wracking, and we still had we had closed Flatiron after 18 years due to an increase in rent that we couldn't do. But Pegu was still open, and so we had to close Pegu. And unlike Clover, where we were dealing with a person and somebody who really cared about us and the well-being of the business, and worked with us, and gave us reduced rent, no rent, and was just like, let's figure out where we're going. At Pegu, that was a corporate, management company, and they did not care.
They did not care.
And we're like, nobody's eating, pancakes and drinking on the sidewalk here in 15-degree weather. Like, they'll do that in Brooklyn. They're not doing it in Soho. So we also had to unload that, and we had to break our lease, and we had to navigate that, and we were afraid we were going to be on the hook for a lot of money there. So there was a lot of stress with that involved. We had at the time, a young daughter at home who's like in the 5th grade, navigating school and being home. So there was like other factors in. I feel like I finally exhaled like 5 weeks into the pandemic. It was sometime around like maybe late April that I felt like, we can come through this. Like, I think we've got it dialed in enough. We know enough about it now. And we seem to have a rhythm with a way to make money and sustain ourselves through however long this was going to be. But I think had I known at the front end of it that somebody had been like, it's going to be 18 months of a total shit show, and you're going to change your business model daily between now and then, it would have been really hard to enter into that. But I think not knowing how long it was going to be, we just sort of grinded it out day after day after day.
Yeah, it was insane. It was really insane.
It was.
So, I mean, at this point in time, the Clover Club has become so iconic. Like, does it feel like an institution to you? I mean, do you feel like it's here now to stay?
Yes.
You just a gut check? Good, I love
do.
that. That's all I need to know.
I do.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something very special about that space.
Yeah.
I hope to celebrate its 50th anniversary one day.
We keep re-upping the lease, so we're,
So plans for the future are
Yeah.
just keep on keeping on, basically.
You mentioned the actual bar that they got in Pennsylvania, and it's still every time I walk in. I mean, every day you walk in, and that's kind of what you see, and it just feels so cozy and homey, and like it's just meant to be there.
So to quickly segue, you obviously live in Brooklyn. You owned bars in Brooklyn. Why did you go back to Manhattan and open Milady's?
Well,
And that was my dive bar, by the way.
yeah,
I used to live at Prince and Thompson.
That's kind of how it happened. Well, I mean, so I during the pandemic, I was teaching Zoom cocktail classes and sending people boxes with my book and ingredients, and I was doing like today it's a gin class, and so one of the people that I was teaching
mind
classes,
you, she was doing sometimes 8-9 classes a week. Like, it wasn't like this was like, it was full on, we had a manufacturing company out of our dining room, like with boxes and boxes going out, like unbelievable.
I mean, I was like, when we came out of that, I was like, if I never fill a 2-ounce bottle with something, a syrup again, I'll be fine.
Again, relaxed labor laws. We had like our
was gonna
12-year-old.
Yeah.
I was
Like,
kidding,
let's go.
but half
They're like,
the
you have
time-
those small fingers. Fill
But
those
then I would
bottles.
ask her to do it, and then she wouldn't do it, and then I'd be in there. I'm like, ugh. Like I would teach a class, and then Sue would bring me dinner, and then I would eat the dinner. I'd teach another class, But the boxes were the greater thing. But anyway, so one of my clients at the time was Peloton's Women's Alliance, and so it was instructors, lawyers, PR people, you name it, people in different departments. And I was going into these women's living room and kitchens virtually for over a year.
Yeah.
And then as we came out of the pandemic, the woman who did most of the booking with me, Alex, called me up and was like, "Hey, I have an idea. Meet me at Long Island Bar for a martini." I was like, "Okay." So I go and I meet her. And at first she was like, "How would you feel about opening a place like in Hudson Yards? You're like, opening a bar over there." And I was like, "No, thanks. I don't want to hang out in Hudson Yards.
Yeah,
it's
no.
really hard to get to from my house." And no. And so we're drinking our martini. I was very,
Not approved.
Yeah, no way.
Nope. No, thank you. But yes, I would like a 2-to-1 martini, please. KJ. And so in this conversation, she was dating a woman whose family owned the building that Milady's is in. So while we're sitting there having this martini, she's like, "Actually, have you ever heard of a bar that used to be called Milady's?" And it was one of those like record scratch moments because I was like, "Yes, I know that bar." And I was like, and this is intriguing. I was like, "Damn it, I wasn't really looking to work this hard." But she was like, "Well, why don't you meet me there and we'll just look at the space?" And I was like, "Okay." So I go there. I think, did you come with me that first time?
Not the first time.
So I went and met her, and I knew that it was one of those things. I was like riding down Henry Street on a city bike, and I was like, if I say this out loud to Sue and Christine, it's going to happen. So I was like, maybe I just don't say anything, and it goes away, and we run the bars that we have, and we're good. And of course, I couldn't keep my mouth shut, and I was like, so I go and look at the space, and I like that location. Like I used to go there after C3 all the time.
Yeah.
It was
We
a
hung
total
out there all the time. We wrote our menu for
It was
Bigger
a
at that bar.
shithole.
shithole, shitty
I
dive
remember
bar.
cockroaches crawling up the wall
Yes.
all the time.
Yep.
But it was awesome.
They had
But
the
it
one-
was so much fun.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
had the one refrigerator, like a residential refrigerator behind the bar that they had ice in to keep the beers cold because the refrigerator didn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
It was
amazing.
a total hole.
Yeah.
But I'm a firm believer that spaces, especially in New York City with that kind of history, just have a soul to them.
Yeah.
And there's something about that particular corner location that is just magical. And, it just, you would leave there and you were like, woo! And it was never like the next day you'd be like, that was the best time.
Yeah.
And it was never about what you ate or drank. It was the company and it was the fun and it was all pre-cell phones. And so
Yep.
everybody was just engaging each other and playing pool and playing fun music.
Maybe there was a fight in the back pool room.
Stuff, a lot things happened. But it had been there for 70 years, and it closed because the guy was like, "I'm tired,
Yeah.
I want to move to Jersey." So it became an Italian restaurant in 2014. Or they closed in 2014. Then it became an Italian restaurant, which closed during the pandemic. So during our time there, Alex asked me how much it would cost to open a place like this. So I gave her like a ballpark number, and she went to the women who I had been teaching classes to during the pandemic and created an investor group to finance the bar. So then I go to these two and I'm like, so we have this incredible space. This is the history of it. And also we have all the financing if we want to open this place. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We were like, great.
We're like, oh shit.
Turned like a financial model and a business plan around in maybe like 48 hours and then had a formal presentation with them and they signed on for it. And we're like at this stage in our career, like, it's like we have a very well established track record.
Yeah.
We're like, so we're not looking to give away, a great deal here. So, we were sort of like, we're gonna do this, and this is the percentage you're gonna have, and we'll accelerate the payback so that we'll get you everything back up front, but then it's gonna be a small percentage of ownership after that. And they were all in. And we're like, this is like amazing. This is
Pretty cool.
what
I
you
mean-
get. Yeah. Well, 25 years into your career, it felt really good
Pretty
to
awesome,
be able
yeah.
to like frame the deal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And then for them, cool to invest in people with your track record and a spot in Soho, like all that.
Yep.
It's a great story.
Yeah, it's been super fun. We're 3 years
And they're awesome.
now. And
They're great. Like our staff absolutely loves them when they come in. They're like really dynamic and interesting people. So-
How conscious have you been to keep the personalities of those spaces separate, or the drinks separate? Or do you find people who come in who are like, well, there's a drink I like at Clover Club. Can I have that here?
they are very much their own
Places.
entity. Even like the staffs are, like the Miladies team, it's like theater kids who can sing. It's
Yeah.
just like they're very different bars, and we do
happened
have
really organically.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of like there are some people who come in to Miladies from Clover, but they have their own identities and their own clientele, really.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Yeah. I'm going to end with the 3 questions I ask everybody, which I think if you've listened, you know what those are, but we'll go anyways. So for each, and you all have to answer all 3 of them, by the way. Okay. All right. So first question, you can choose who takes it first. You can only drink 1 cocktail at Clover Club. Which one?
Negroni.
Negroni.
Gin Blossom.
All right. Just because? Just like
Gin Blossom's my favorite cocktail.
On Fridays, the 3 of us sit at table 50 in the back room, and that is what we drink every week.
I love it.
It's our owners meeting.
We're actually already doing that.
You can open a bar anywhere in the world. I'll figure out the financing for you. So that's not an issue. You just have to know it's going to make money. It has to be successful. I have to get my money back. Where would you open a bar?
It's where I want to be. Hawaii.
Yeah, I'd say Oahu.
Okay.
I would say Jamaica.
All right. Okay. So we're all going beach vibes.
Yes.
Yeah, we're beach girls.
Cool. And then final, more serious question. One piece of advice you would give to someone who is thinking about running a bar, opening a bar, they want to own something, a restaurant, to another entrepreneur, what one piece of advice would you give them?
Listen to your first instincts always.
That's good.
Diversify your partnership and have really difficult conversations up front with an attorney so that everyone is protected.
I would definitely second that one. And I would also say do everything in your bar. I've only been a cocktail bartender and never anything else, and I want to open a bar. It works out sometimes, but I just think you will be happier and have a better product if you have hosted, bus tables, run food at least, seen the kitchen, really know the kitchen people, waited tables. Yeah.
Cleaned up vomit at least once.
Yep. Yeah.
Take business classes.
Because then you know who you should be hiring, and always try to hire people that are better than you and not be afraid of that.
I love it. One last question for you, just based on the conversation we've had, because I think it's an important one for people who are questioning. I think a lot of bartenders that I've met and talked to, especially recently, say, they're a very well-known bartender at someone else's bar, and they'll get approached by someone who's a regular and say, hey, I have a lot of money for you. I'd love to open something with you. How should someone enter into that relationship? What would your advice be to someone who is approached by, we're in New York City, someone who's wealthy and says, I want to open something with you? How should you approach partnership?
With your lawyer.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like a lot of times, like people, we've said this multiple times and other things, like don't buy yourself a job. Don't sign on for something because you're so anxious to get your name on something that you get yourself into the worst deal on the planet, like some sweat equity bullshit where you own 5% and you're never going to see any money out of that. And they've basically got you like an indentured servant.
Yeah. We watched a lot of people do that over the course of our careers. And I feel like there's a resurgence of it.
Yes.
Where there are people with money who are offering people really shitty deals. And some of them are taking those deals so that they can say, I'm a bar owner. And it's, it's hard work. Toby Cicchini, I think, was on here, and I
answer
reposted
was
this
the
because I was
best.
like, yes, the opening process is super fun, but then it's just maintenance, and
Yep.
it's maintenance of all the things, and it can be exhausting and grueling, and it's not. If you love bartending, you're not going to be bartending.
Right.
When you open a bar, I got news for you. I mean, that is just. It's just the nature of the beast, but there's a lot of people that want to take advantage of talent and who have money.
Yes.
So be very cautious and make sure that you have a contract that works for you, because otherwise you'll find yourself 10 years down the road saying, oh, damn it, this was a shitty deal. And now you're 10 years older and you're more tired, and it's a young person's game.
And your name isn't the hot name anymore.
Right.
Exactly.
Totally.
Yeah.
This has been an amazing conversation. Julie, Sue, Christine, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for joining me on the Buildout. It's been really awesome.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for listening to VinePair's The Buildout. The show is produced, filmed, recorded, and edited by Darby Seasai. Editorial direction from VinePair's editor-in-chief, Joanna Chirino. Design of the logo by Marcello Bevilacqua. And thanks to the entire VinePair team, especially my co-founder, Joshua Mallon. I've been your host, Adam Teeter. Until next time, thanks for listening.